It's me. It's me. It's DDP.
Welcome back, guys. This is Derek Kirby with the Dallas Prospect. Every legend was once a prospect. Back again here to give you a Cowboys breakdown. Now, we've had some interesting news with the Cowboys the past couple days. We saw, for instance, finally, some action on the part of the front office. Not only did the Cowboys make some free agent acquisitions, they actually signed some guys. They brought in some good ones. Don't get me wrong, the acquisitions are nice, but it's not like they just traded for Earl Thomas. Maybe more on that later come draft day. We'll see. But these were solid acquisitions. If you had told me coming into free agency, you can get one of these 3 or 4 top receivers, first of all, I would have put Allen Hurns in that list. I would have said he was a good fit in Dallas. And he does not supplant Dez, he supplements him. He works well with him. Great hands, great size. He's not as big as Dez. He doesn't have quite the same frame, but he's still 6'3", 205, 210 roughly. And he's got good hands. He can catch bad passes, and God knows he had to do a lot of that in Jacksonville playing with Blake Bortles. Now, he's not a guy who will take the top off a defense. He's got 4.5 speed, which is nice speed, but it's nothing blazing by any means. He is not an Odell Beckham or even a guy like Deonte Thompson, another wide receiver Dallas signed. And to everyone who freaked out when the Dallas Cowboys signed Deonte Thompson to a 1-year deal, everyone thinking this meant the Cowboys were out on the Allen Hurns pursuit, breathe, it's okay. It didn't mean that. It was just getting depth. You lost Bryce Butler. This gave you a replacement for Bryce Butler. As for whether or not Deonte Thompson is an upgrade over Bryce Butler, the guy's 29 years old, 4.3 speed. He did perform well once he traded to the Buffalo Bills last season, but until then, he was, let's not forget, Chicago had an abysmal receiving core last year, and they didn't think he was worth hanging on to. So he winds up in Buffalo instead, finishes pretty strong in Buffalo, but, you know, the jury's out on him. The fact is, Dallas went out then and got Allen Hurns, and I think Allen Hurns immediately is your number 2 receiver. I think Dez will stay your X, just like Dez keeps the 88. Allen Hurns was also 88, if you didn't know that. And I've seen a bunch of talk going around about what number Allen Hurns will wear in Dallas now. Will it be 13? Will it be 86, 81, 89? My preference, honestly, I think 89 looks good. I think that's nice, but it seems like the popular votes are going on 13 and 81 right now. So Hurns will be your number 2 receiver, solid route runner. You can use him a little bit more creatively. And I think automatically that signals that either Terrence Williams or Cole Beasley is on the cut or trade block. Now, if I'm Dallas, I try to move Cole Beasley. Here's why. Terrence Williams signed a 4-year, $16 million deal just last offseason. Now, you can think what you want about Terrence Williams. He had a bad year. Except for Kansas City. He was really good in that game. I think 9 for 137. Easily his best game as a Cowboy as far as a complete game. Not his best catch. That Detroit playoff game might argue that, but I digress. Best game last season for sure. Terrence Williams doesn't have a lot of money guaranteed on his contract, but I also don't know that he has as much value as Cole Beasley would. Perhaps he would. If you could tell me right now that we could have Earl Thomas for Terrence Williams and a 3rd round pick, hell yes, sign me up. You've got to create room. You have 7 receivers on the roster now. You have Dez, you have Hurns, you have Williams, you have Beasley, you have Switzer, you have Noah Brown, and you have Deonte Thompson. That's the active roster. Noah Brown is a possibility. He was a 7th round pick. So even though they like his size, he could be on the out. But it also isn't a move that saves much money, which would be another reason, another facet, if you will, to consider when deciding which receiver you need to move on from. I think Cole Beasley has the most value of the guys I mentioned. And the reason is, Cole Beasley's 29 years old, going to be 29 this season, I believe. You already have a guy in that same mold. in Ryan Switzer. You don't need two of them. We thought last year, hey, they were going to be creative. They were going to use both on the field together, because how do you deal with both together? They didn't give Switzer any time, so it didn't matter. So to me, I think that's where you have the most flexibility to move on. You still can keep that facet of your offense, but you do it in a guy on a rookie contract, not making near as much money. And you move Cole Beasley for another asset while he still has a year or two of good value. If you play out his entire contract, he's going to be 31 by the time he's done here, and I don't think you're going to get much for him at that point. So that would be my recommendation, would be trading Cole Beasley. But I would be open to moving Terrence Williams if it was something that we could do and it really, really benefited us. Another interesting development for Dallas was the signing of Cameron Fleming, the Patriots' starting right tackle in this year's Super Bowl. Now Fleming, he's been in the league 4 years. I believe he was a 4th-round pick, and he's had sporadic starting, but he did start the AFC Championship game, and he did start the Super Bowl. He's got good footwork, good size. I think this signals there's a lot of conflict and uncertainty in Dallas about whether or not they're going to move La'el Collins back to right guard. Now here's the question with that. In college, he was a left tackle. In Dallas, he was a guard, and he showed great promise as a guard. But with the retiring of Doug Free and the free agent signing to Denver for Ron Leary, Dallas had a 40% change in its offensive line going into last season. To address that, they decided to move their best athlete at the line that they had available, La'el Collins, to right tackle. Not only that, they signed him to an extension that made him one of the 3 highest paid right tackles in the league, despite not having played there before. And although Collins did get better as the season progressed, he was overall far and away the weakest member of the offensive line. Again, it was a weird year because he had to go against a lot of elite pass rushers, but all in all, I still think he might be better suited back at guard, and Dallas clearly thinks that too. But here's the problem. You've moved him 3 times in 5 years. Is that really a pattern you want to continue? When you move a guy, you don't let him set roots and grow and master his craft. You're constantly asking him to do something else, and it's almost like hitting reset half the time. We saw that with Tyrone Crawford, and I'm afraid Dallas is going to do that to La'el Collins as well. Still, I think it's best to move him and keep him back at guard. Use Fleming, he's on a 2-year contract, I believe. Use Cameron Fleming as your starting right tackle. Move Collins back to right guard. You already have a very good core in that offensive line. You have 3 guys that are perennial Pro Bowlers. All you need is 2 above average to good, like really, really good players to fill out that line and make it dominant once more. It was not dominant in 2017, and that was one of the biggest, most undertold stories of the Cowboys season. Another interesting signing from the Cowboys regarding their offensive line was the addition of Marcus Martin, most recently with the San Francisco 49ers, and I believe before that the Cleveland Browns. Now he is another guard. I think he just adds depth. He's your Jonathan Cooper replacement. As it stands right now, he would be like your Jonathan Cooper replacement if you're not moving La'el Collins. And then that would make Fleming your swing tackle, which not a bad move either, but I still think I'd rather have Collins back at guard. Still, I like what Dallas is doing. Dallas's 3 biggest acquisitions that I just rattled off, all of them came in on 2-year deals or less, and then they don't pay a lot of money. Like Allen Hurns, low-key, stupid cheap. 2 years, $12 million? Bro, come on, that is insane money. Sammy Watkins got $16 million guaranteed. I don't even care if all $12 million is guaranteed to Hurns. He is worth it. So Dallas has kept its pocketbooks nice and cheap. They haven't had to go out and break their back paying for guys. That's huge. That allows them to still be aggressive in free agency if they wanted. They could still be fairly aggressive at this point. But it also allows them to address now key needs in the draft. There has been a lot of lead-up discussion for the draft that Dallas would consider a Will Hernandez, who I love, by the way, for the offensive line, or that they would consider a receiver, someone like a Calvin Ridley or a Christian Kirk or a DJ Moore or a Cortland Sutton. I like all of those guys. The thing is, what Dallas needs is to help that defense. That is their biggest need. Linebacker lost 2 guys. We already knew linebacker needed extra depth because you can't rely on Sean Lee to play 16 full games. Then you lost Anthony Hitchens. You have essentially 2 needs at linebacker now, and that's not something to be taken lightly. That's why I think at 19, Dallas needs to be looking at Tremaine Edmunds out of Virginia Tech. That is my favorite pick at 19, or even if you have to trade up to get him, that is who I want. Now, I also really like, and this would be if we can't get the Earl Thomas trade to work, I really like Derwin James out of Florida State at safety. I think he would be a fantastic draft pick. You've already decided you're moving Byron Jones back to the corner position. As a result, I want Derwin James or Earl Thomas. Now, Earl Thomas is ready. If you're telling me you think you got a 2-year window, maybe a 3 at most year window, Earl Thomas is your dude. That's your guy. But if you're really planning for the future and you're trying to play it smart and you're insisting that you're not worried about this window of time when Dak's not making a lot of money, in which case you really should be, and that's not good thinking, then Derwin James is probably your better pick, but nothing's for sure. I think he's going to be a very good safety, and I would love for Dallas to draft him. But if they draft him, obviously the Earl Thomas conversation goes away. So, Tremaine Edmunds is my pick at 19. But the beauty of these signings, because Dallas addressed offensive line and receiver, they don't need as badly now an offensive player. Now, they also signed Joe Thomas out of Green Bay. He was on the Dallas practice squad in 2015. In 2016, he had 70 tackles. In 2017, he had like a 4th as many snaps as 2016. So I do want to know why that is. I don't know the context or reasoning behind it, but I know he made some big plays in that playoff game at Dallas in 2016 when the Packers upset the 13-3 Cowboys. So for me, I look at this as, to me, Thomas, he's a special teams guy, right? He's a rotational player, but I don't think he's a starter for you. I really don't. And I know Big Game James, for instance, has kind of the same thinking. But I really want to see Dallas take 2 linebackers in the draft. I still think they could take a receiver, not in rounds 1, not in the first round, but maybe in round 2. If the right guy is there on the table, I think they still could look receiver. And at that point, then you really got to ask yourself about Dez's future in Dallas. But let's not open that can of worms yet, because for now, all there is to talk about is what we know that's concrete. What we know that's concrete is that Allen Hurns is a Cowboy. Cameron Fleming is a Cowboy. Marcus Martin, Cowboy. Joe Thomas, Cowboy. And the aforementioned Deonte Thompson, Cowboy. Dallas has done a pretty good job of filling some needs here, and they've done it without spending a lot. You know, I ripped the Cowboys a couple weeks ago for constantly restructuring contracts and kicking the can down the road. But really, the guys they restructured, they've only done 2 restructure deals so far. Those were Travis Frederick, a guy that you know is young enough and resilient enough and reliable enough that he will be around for the back end of his contract, most likely, for you to not really suffer for having guaranteed money to him at that point. The other was Jason Witten. The thing about Jason Witten's deal, he signed a 4-year, I think it was $16 million deal, something like that, last offseason, and people kind of shrugged like, what the heck is this? Why? He's old as hell already. He can barely move. What are you doing? I think the reason there is because what people miss in that is that there's not guaranteed money. It would never happen, but if it did, Cowboys could walk away from Witten tomorrow, and that would be that. That is why they restructured Witten, because there's not guaranteed money for them to suffer from. So, you restructure those two deals, you create about $10 million in cap space, and you fill it with Hurns. You got a starting receiver, a starting tackle, most likely a starting tackle, and depth for a guard. That's impressive. That is impressive. You also added a special teams fill-in for linebacker, which replaces Kyle Wilber, and you got now another Bryce Butler mold wide receiver who has the speed and has good hands and could maybe take the top off the defense every now and then. That's nice. That's effective. I don't know what these moves really do to change up the power structure in the NFC East. I can tell you that I think the Redskins are miles off. I can tell you that I think the Giants are. I think the Giants' defense will be more back to itself next year, but I do think that the Giants are still a little ways off with regard to that offense. That offensive line is miserably bad. They don't have a good running back. They don't really have a quarterback at this point. I think they're going to draft a guy, and I think he's going to probably sit for at least half a year behind Eli, if not a whole year. And, you know, we'll see what happens there. But I think it's Dallas and Philadelphia that are sitting atop the division this year. And I think Philadelphia, even though they won the Super Bowl this past year, I think they got considerably better. Now we have to see what's going on with all the madness of Michael Bennett and apparently assaulting a paraplegic elderly man at the Super Bowl several years ago. I think what I read in the story was that it was the Patriots Super Bowl, the Patriots-Seahawks one, in which case I'm wondering why this is just now, you know, leading to this, but, you know, whatever. Assuming he's not, like, suspended or, you know, arrested or something to that effect, he's still a quality defensive end. They went out and they added a guy like Mike Wallace. They went out and they added several nice players. And I think, you know, yeah, on top of everything, you add in that they're getting Carson Wentz back, they're going to be a better team. And while the NFC was wide open last year, and maybe they were just that team for 1 year, I think they're going to be better than they were last year, which was already a good team. So Dallas has its work cut out for it there, but I think they'll be able to say that they got better as well. We hadn't even gotten to the draft yet, and if you ask me right now, is Dallas better than they were in 2017? My gut says yes. How much better? I don't know. I think Hurns could be the biggest impact acquisition here, but I don't know for sure that he is a world beater. I think he will go well with Dez Bryant because he is a good enough and dynamic enough wide receiver that it's not going to let teams double up Dez. So if Dez Bryant can get open, if Dez can beat one man, and Dak throws it up top, lets Dez go win jump balls, I think you could see, to an extent, a return to form for Dez Bryant, and part of that will be helped out simply by having Allen Hurns on the other side as opposed to Terrence Williams. If you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to support us on Patreon. For the price of a cup of coffee, you help us make better content. We can invest more in the website. We can get better equipment. We can pay contributors. And we can put forth our best foot and grow this independent network. Also, don't forget to check out the DallasProspect.com. If you want Cowboys coverage and analysis, as well as Maverick Stars, Rangers, Big 12 football, and some regional teams like the Oklahoma Sooners and Oklahoma City Thunder, Dallas Prospect is your place to be. But Derek, I hear you saying, what if I don't like sports? Well, good viewer, I would ask you why you've been watching this video for the past 15 minutes. But, as I don't judge, I would assure you we have great pop culture content as well. Film reviews, gaming news, music, television, lists, rankums, breakdowns, you name it, we got it. The Dallas Prospect seeks to be the biggest and best independent sports entertainment network in the Dallas area. Don't forget to find us on Facebook and Twitter at Dallas Prospect. Check in every week for new content. We are live Wednesday nights with Law Nation and Big Game James of Silver and Blue Nation for Dallas Prospect Live. You can find that on YouTube or on our Facebook page. I've been Derek with the DallasProspect.com. And until next time, guys, salute.